I'm Dylan Black. What drink goes best with your Thanksgiving feast? That and so much more right now with the amazing Rob Statham, a wine, spirits, and beer consultant. Drunken Grape. Good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Happy
It's
Thanksgiving.
always a pleasure. Yeah, one of my favorite times of year. You know, the fall, the leaves are changing, the weather's still good. Brings about a Thanksgiving feast.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a great family holiday.
You know, I love when you're here because you always give us a background, a history lesson as well, depending on what time of year you're here. What is it about Thanksgiving in Canada? Can you tell us why we celebrate?
Well, it was rooted really through the British Empire, you know, since we were originally a British colony. Came over, started in England around the 1530s through the court of Henry VIII during the Protestant Reformation. It was about giving thanks for that year's harvest and bounty. So a celebration would ensue. Well, a lot of that tradition came here, and it was officially recognized in 1879 by Parliament, which originally dubbed the date November 6th. And then they scaled it back into the early 20th century to the second Monday of October, which is what we celebrate now.
Okay.
And because we're in a cool climate, it really ties well with the harvest. You know, towards the end of September, I know we'll get to that shortly with Sandbanks, but they're having their harvest party right now. A lot of the wineries are starting to harvest all their grapes for next year's or the years after vintage releases. Well, it was the same with food. So they would stock up for the winter months, but before that, throw a big party and a big feast.
I know you're a smart guy. Why do we celebrate at a different time than America?
Well, that I do not know traditionally. I mean, again, I think the weather there is quite a bit more mild.
Yeah.
And the harvest season will be longer because harvest comes later. It comes well into November, so it makes sense for them to celebrate it on the third Thursday of November. That would be my logic behind it, and
that's
probably some truth to it.
Fair enough.
But there's a lot of things you can do with a Thanksgiving dinner.
Of course.
A lot of food options. I mean, you saw Paula Roy present some things that were terrific earlier in the show.
Well, let's talk about, because I don't want to run out of time, and obviously you've got some good picks for us, okay? So top beer and wine picks for this time of year.
Well, we've featuring Big Rig Brewery. It's Ottawa's biggest brewery now, and they've won many awards provincially, nationally with their brewing excellence. Started in 2012, named after one of the owners, and we all know him very well, Chris Phillips, the iconic defenseman known as the Big Rig. Played some 16 seasons for our hometown team, the Ottawa Senators. So their selections have done really well. They have a Pilsner here that I found to be have nice corn cereal notes, a bit of butteriness to it, a little bitterness in the end. Would go well with an entry beer at dinner or with a salad. You're looking at a couple other options here with the main course. You've got an amber ale. You also have a Scotch ale, which a bit of peatiness and smokiness to it. Now, both of these have caramel notes in it. This one tends to have a bit of an apricot flavor. This one, you're looking at caramelized sugar in the profile as well. Would go well with the main course. Would go well with the gravy, and the turkey, and the stuffing. Now, if you're adverse to the beer, we do have a wine option here. Now, this is what we're talking Sandbanks Winery. Now, this winery started in 2001. Now, the winemaker was trained initially in Burgundy. And her name is Catherine Langlois. Set up shop in 2001, started harvesting grapes in 2003, where they sold 150 cases of different varietals. So it was Chardonnay, Riesling, Vidal, Cabernet Franc, and Bac-Au Noir, which is this variety. They sold 150 cases that year, and now they're up to over 40,000 cases in production.
So they're doing well.
They're doing very well. It's the 5th largest producer in Ontario.
And of course, that's out in the Prince Edward County.
It is, which is our youngest viticultural area. It started in 2007.
Okay.
So this one's great because you got a lot of jammy notes. And depending on what you want to have at dinner, you could pair it with turkey, but it also broadens it over to some of your roast meats, your barbecues, lamb, steak, depending on some options. So a lot of dark fruit, not too dry. There's a hint of sweetness to it, and a lot of body and a lot of richness. So it goes really well with the main course.
Okay, can I ask you, because you didn't mention the pumpkin spice porter?
We're going to get to that one, absolutely.
So let's, because I know we have about a minute and a half left here. So.
Well, this one is also by Big Rig. It's a seasonal beer, so you're looking at Tales of the Patch. This is a pumpkin spice porter ale. Absolutely delicious. Lots of notes of nutmeg. You have, of course, pumpkin in there. A bit of coffee notes come up in it as well. Would be tremendous with ice cream, with pumpkin pie, or whipped cream as a dessert to finish it. So some great selections here, all local, which is what we wanted to focus on.
Sounds decadent, really.
all fees should be.
That's true. Can I ask you, okay, so the drunkengrape.ca, now this could be a busy time of year for you.
Well, we've moved into a lot more events. I do a lot of local events. So there's some of my clients include like a law firm, dental supply company, personalized events for up to 100 people where you do hosted educational seminars on wine and beer, some food tastings. A lot of what we feature here on TV is a snippet of what we would do in an hour-long session. And I've also moved a lot into videography and video branding on social media. So I started doing videos of wineries and breweries, which is another piece of business that's taking off now.
Okay. Where did your love for all this come from?
Well, I grew up with my father brewing brewing beer and making wine.
Awesome.
So that was really I was his guinea pig for a while in his batches.
The drunkengrape.ca, Rob Statham, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
More daytime coming up.